let's get the SNL talk out of the way. You happy you're taking a break?
Yeah, we're on break. I am on the road.
What is your schedule? Like, is your schedule?
It's different.
It's different.
Yeah.
Is it fine?
Yeah.
Are you going to work like fully well? You slept well, and
No,
everyone's...
no. It's like our schedule is different, but we submit at 12 every day, like all our jokes from the day before. So I only do update. So
And they give you a packet of headlines.
yes, they give us a packet in the morning. So Monday morning is pretty chill. Monday morning's like the chillest. Then Monday, when you get the packet at 12, then it starts, and then you start writing, and then the next day by 12 you have to submit. Theoretically, if you're really good at your job, you can kind of finish it on Monday. Probably, I stress about it till 12, like till the next day when I submit.
You running it by you saying it to friends out loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to like call a friend and go through all these jokes to see if they sound like jokes. Because sometimes when you're just writing alone, because you write alone.
Of course.
Yeah.
So you're like, is this a sentence or is this a joke? I have no idea. So you have to say it out loud, and then I would say it to a friend, and then it would kind of like...
And would you impersonate which person you wanted to say it?
No. Because I think like a good joke should work as like a badly told sentence, you know?
Sure.
Like it should have no, like without a performance, it should still be a good joke.
Do you have to indicate on the joke like if it's a racist joke, like this is for Colin?
Yeah, like for instance, if you wrote a joke about being white, you would just write Colin because
Sure.
it doesn't make sense for a che, or like being married or something. You just want to give it to that person. So I will sometimes write their name, but mostly no. Mostly you're just kind of writing a joke.
And how many are you submitting, like, for that first initial? How many
We
jokes?
try to do 3 pages every day, which comes out to about 20. Honestly, the longer it is, the worse day I'm having as a writer.
Yeah.
Because then I'm rambling. I'm like 7 pages in.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the reason I went to the 7th page is because I didn't have anything in the first 3, you know?
Yeah.
So
Sure.
I'm like just going and going. And then I'm like, maybe they'll find something in this pile of trash, you know?
Yeah.
So it's very... Is it weird? You have a very lonely job. I mean, you
How
just
many-
get this alone.
Yeah,
How many
but we
of
go
their-
into work every day.
How many
Yeah.
of, like, just weekend, like, how many other writers are just focused on Weekend Update?
It's 4 writers.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Including them?
No.
Oh,
4.
okay. And then... Okay, so you're there, you're doing it in person, you get to talk, do you ever get to go in and say, hey, what do you think of this? Or is it very much...
Yeah, so we do it, we submit it, and then at 2 I go into work on like the Tuesday, and then Tuesday we stay late for because it's writing night, so if they have any feature ideas, we just stay late to get the feature ideas. Then on Wednesday it's like reading, so you're there till like 11 maybe, like kind of late-ish.
You're reading in a room?
They're doing the table read,
table
and
read.
you're just kind of like
Are they
watching
reading it out loud in the table read?
Yeah.
Or you-
But not the update jokes.
Not the update jokes.
Yeah, update
Okay.
jokes stay till we read with the guys on Friday.
Oh, okay, cool.
And then Friday night where they're really, really late.
For Friday, do they make it anonymous who wrote what, or do they...
Yes.
Okay.
That's the best part. Is
Yeah.
it's anonymous, and you've submitted the packet, and like our head writer will like comb through it and pick the ones that he wants to send along, and then the guys will pick through theirs, and then they will send a big packet, and then we go through that.
When one of
and
your
then we
joke
cut it down.
bombs, do you ever act like you didn't write it? You're like, what was that?
Who wrote that?
Yeah, every joke I act like I don't know what is going on here. Sometimes if I wrote something that's like, I'll sometimes write like a joke that's like explicitly like racist, but it's like an Asian specific joke. And then I have to feel like I have to cop to this because I don't want them to be like one of the white guys wrote this, you know, because it feels really bad. So then
Why,
I'm like,
I don't see
sorry.
Colin or Michael being like,
Yeah.
who wrote this one?
No,
Who
they'll
wrote
like,
this one?
They'll like laugh and they'll be like, "There's no way you can say that," and I'll be like, "You can say it. You can say it. Tell them I said it.
Yeah,
you
tell
know?
them I said it. Yeah.
I always loved that. I thought that's one of the best things Seth Meyers did was when he had jokes he couldn't say, and so he brought out like Amber and other folks to be like, yeah, these are great jokes.
Right.
Yeah.
They have to be told in some way.
Yeah.
Pitch it.
Yeah, and they have the guys have the joke swap.
Joke swap, yeah.
So
yeah,
then
of
they have
course.
jokes and they can't say it, and then they say it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's got to be fun to write.
That one's really fun to write. That one's like fun to write, but you're also kind of like, you're like, I don't even want to tell you guys that I had this as a thought. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Because
yeah,
you're like,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
fun to
And
write,
they
but
go
you're
hard
like,
in the paint.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
they really
They
go.
really go
It
in.
really is.
It's-
Colin is the one I think where I'm like, God damn.
Yeah, it's brutal
Yeah.
to say those things to, I'm sure, I mean, like, imagine just saying it for the first time, cold, to a room full of people.
What do you do on those days during the dress? Do you just skip that segment?
No, we give them different jokes.
Are they like
similar concept, different jokes?
Oh God!
Yeah.
And they should release that footage.
Yeah, they should release.
Are there ever some like real bangers in there that are?
Yeah, but we save the real bangers for the, because
Sure.
know that like the segment's gonna work. So those jokes are pretty like practiced.
Yeah.
Release it.
Yeah,
I like how they got into the habit of releasing stuff that doesn't
cut
air.
for time.
Yeah.
Cut for time.
Cut for
That
time
was really
great.
smart.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you mind if I ask joke you're proudest you got on?
The joke, it was my first year and I really loved it. It's so dumb. It's such a bad joke, but I had gotten other jokes on at that point, but I was like, I really love this. It made me laugh. It's like some guy had like stolen like $1 million from a school system by like coming up with some chicken wings scheme. And the joke is just like, but the guy said he was going to give it all back, and then Colin does the chicken voice.
I don't remember that one. I usually watch it twice. I really
like a dumb joke.
Did he nail the back? Did he get it?
Yeah, no, he did. They nailed a thing in the read, and that's the only way it works, And that one, I was like, this is so stupid, and the math on it doesn't make sense because he stole money. He didn't steal chicken.
Yeah.
But the scheme was involving chicken, so I was like, well, the word is there, so you can. Anyways, we debated that for a while because our head writer was like, the math on this is kind of off. And I was like, I know, but he's going to go back on TV. That's fun.
Any joke that you're like, either it was Asian related or something else that didn't get on that you're like, that was a good joke?
Yeah, there was a joke this year. I can't even remember what. Oh, it was like some Indian girl was able to do some kind of feat. I don't remember what it was, the setup. But the joke is basically like, oh, but that's because she has 20 hands or something. And and we liked it, but then when we did it at rehearsal, I think everyone was like, what?
They're not familiar enough with the culture to understand the reference.
To know the whole
They're
thing.
like, is the drinking water bad there?
Yeah.
And they
What
have
is happening?
deformities?
Yeah.
Any weeks that you got nothing on?
Yeah. I mean, like my first week that I was fully there, I got nothing on. I was like, oh God, this is going to be
Were
sad.
you scared?
Yeah, but actually, before I joined, when I talked to the writers, they were like, one of the writers was like, I didn't get anything on the whole first year.
Oh my
You'll
God.
be fine. Like, you just want
I'd
to...
throw up.
Yeah.
Because you must have worked your ass off that
right,
first
of course. I mean,
year.
like, you're like in... Like, under so... The first year was kind of like... You're just kind of counting, like, in your head. But now you're more, like, relaxed because you're like, oh, I count it in my head as doing a good job if when we're reading it the first time, there's a good sampling of my jokes. Because that means they liked it enough through two processes.
Yeah.
Then when we have to cut, it's like sort of like not even personal because a lot of the news is like, we wrote this on Monday. It's not relevant by Saturday.
Yeah,
so when we're cutting, it's like, yeah, of course we're going to cut that.
Yeah.
Also, the other writers are so good that when you're cutting, it never feels like, oh, you cut this? You're always like, oh, I mean, that joke's so much better than this joke. Like, it never feels unfair. You're always like, that totally makes sense. And then now you're just, I want the segment to be good, so whatever.
What's your guys' method for finding, like, the best jokes on Twitter to use?
You mean X? That's the point of contention.
I remember that Conan O'Brien case. That was the one that went all the way to. Do you remember that?
No. What is that?
Probably. I mean, it was a while ago where someone sued Conan O'Brien. They said that there were some jokes that he stole from Twitter, and they were all. It's one of those things. Whenever you look at a stolen joke, there's always or quote unquote stolen joke, an accusation. Like some, you're like, especially as a comedian,
right.
You know more than most. You're like, yeah, the joke is the person is a woman. They didn't have balls.
Right.
It's like,
or like,
And
then once in a while, there's like one or two details that seem really close. Someone did it recently. I don't know if you saw. They said they wrote the joke, the X is going down faster than Nancy Reagan in the MGM parking lot.
Right.
And they used that in an episode of The Boys. And this person said that they wanted a co-writing credit on the episode for the use of this. And people kind of ripped them. And a lot of writers felt like they felt it it was important to tear this person down because they were like threatening a real writer. I don't know who wrote the episode. Maybe they're beloved or whatever. Yeah. But it was interesting. It obviously like it's gonna come up.
Yeah, I mean,
I've been accused. Back in the day, I was accused of like 3 times. I think of someone was like put 2 tweets next together. Yeah. But then what would happen is someone would find an older tweet.
You always find an older tweet, and then you're like, oh yeah, someone else did it too.
But it's truly like monkeys writing in a room. You know what I mean? Like, if you give monkeys typewriters, they're gonna come up with Shakespeare kind of idea. Is like, we are 3 people or 4 people writing this all day long. A lot of times with the premise, all 4 of us will have the same joke. And that's because when you give a premise, like you said, like you get the same result because it's math. Like you're sort of putting a math together. And so you get the result. And then people are like, but I also had that result. And it's like, so did 3 other people right next to me.
Yeah.
And we try to, whenever there's like all 4 of us wrote the same thing, we try to not do it. Because that means it's too obvious as a joke. So
Sure. But that's why you guys...
I imagine that's why, like some of the random stories from this woman in Florida, you're like, okay, not everyone on Twitter is going to be thinking about
and
that.
I'm sure some of those stories are 5 years old.
Yeah.
Is there a little bit of that? Like some like, this happened 10 years ago technically, but...
No, we do some of that, but it will be like from earlier in the season when we tried that joke at dress rehearsal. And we didn't make it to air, but it was a good joke. But we just didn't do it that episode. We'll bring it back like 2 episodes later or something.
Sure.
But that's just from like 3-4 weeks ago.
I think this is not. I believe me. I've talked enough shit on this, but Weekend Update is such a strong. I just think it's a strong element, and I think like of all the, because I feel like I mean I don't watch late show monologues very much anymore, but I love tight jokes. I could watch Best of Norm Macdonald. I could watch Best of Johnny Carson even. Like I just admire the structure of it all. Yeah. And every late night is so topical now. Yeah. And so obvious. I think Weekend Up. I think the the describing of the person's face. Right. Like here's Mitch McConnell looking at XYZ. Like it still is very. There's a lot of like joke.
Because you have to get into the topic, but you want to kind of do a little palette.
Is that on the page too? Is there a picture of Mitch and you got to come with 10?
You submit with the picture.
That's very funny.
I feel like that's the one I'd be the worst at. I'd be like seen here watching a baby get pooped on by his
God.
The more random it is, the funnier it is, though, because you're just like, what is he doing watching a baby? You know.
And I also feel like Weekend Update. It's still like push it like things where I'm like, whoa, you got away with that.
Yeah, because they are kind of like they have that like thing where they're kind of grandfathered into a lot of stuff, so they can get away with it.
Well, and because of the tight joke structure, you can get in and get out. You don't have to dwell too long in like a certain thing. That if it's like, oh, we can go a little bit farther with this joke because then it's on to the next, and it's you know what I mean?
Yeah, and they've built their personalities. Yeah. So it feels like one of them can say something that's in their voice. So you kind of forgive it because you're just like, that's just who he is.
Totally.
And that must be a Michael Che element of like Michael Che is like a pushing it,
right,
and same with Norm. I mean, that's why Norm Macdonald's I think jokes hold up so much. Is he was like, oh my God,
and so had such a voice. Like he had such a. You can do a Norm joke even now. You can tell a joke and be like, that's a Norm joke.
Totally,
even if it's your joke, it's like a Norm voice joke.
Do you feel when one of your jokes does really well? Mm-hmm. Do you go? It still doesn't compare to when I'm telling it. Like not the joke, but like the feeling of a joke working as a writer watching versus totally. You've got to fucking tell it.
Totally. I think like my stand-up's never topical, so like none of that ever makes it into stand-up. But yeah, writing your own joke and making that work on stage feels so good that you can have a great rest of the night just thinking about that. Like being like, oh my God, I made that joke work. And then whenever the show happens, I sort of like, I'm like watching and it feels good, but I kind of black out through the show. I will like be watching and then just kind of hold your breath that it goes well. And then when it's over and people are like, oh, what jokes were yours? I'm like, I have blacked out. Like I don't remember what happened. I'd have to go back and watch it.
I would have cards with which jokes were mine and I'd hand them out.
Where do you watch when it's happening? I mean,
we watch on the floor.
You watch on the floor.
Yeah.
Okay.
You ever have a joke that fucking it tanked and you go up and you go, hey, I'm sorry about that.
It was like one of the first jokes it was like one of the first jokes I'd gotten in. It was like it was like the third joke or something I'd ever gotten in. And it was like a Kanye West joke. It was like when he was losing his mind.
Yeah.
I don't even remember what the joke was. It was just sort of like a Kanye joke. And that night I saw my agent at the after party and he was like, oh, I just saw a Deadline had an article and they had mentioned how that joke brought a chill to the room. And I was and my agent said this to me not knowing that's my joke.
Oh man, bomb so hard. Deadline
Deadline
wrote it that night. Someone watched this show and by the after party there was an article about it.
That is so funny.
And I was like, cool. that's awesome.
So you never have an urge inside you when a joke does well you don't have a friend or somewhere you want to be like, I wrote that one.
Yeah, I do. One time, I will like text a friend and be like,
oh yeah?
Especially if I told them that joke before, like when I used to read jokes to a friend, I would like tell them and be like, that one did really well. Especially when I used to call my friend and he would be like, I don't know if I like that one.
You'd be like,
and then it made it on and then it went well and I'd be like, you should go watch it at about 5 minutes, 30 seconds.
It's so brutal. There's a couple jokes that I've told Tova first. She's like, I don't know. And when I really have to fight every time it does well in front of her to be like, you think I should cut it now still? Think I should cut it now still?
But then when it doesn't go well and they're watching and they told you it wasn't going to go well, it's the worst. Because you're just like, I was just having a bad night. I could have sold it better.
Yeah.
I'll do it again, just out of spite, you know.
You're listening to The Downside.
The Downside.
With Gianmarco Soresi.